Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Black Women Leave America podcast, the live edition. I'm your host, Ava Laura Gaither, life coach and intuitive consultant, and my co-host, Jessica. She will be joining us in a minute. She's on mommy duties. You know, we are all things authentic here. So she had to do things for the kiddos, and she will join us when she has time. I'm sure many of you can relate to that. But I'm really excited about this episode. So we decided that we wanted to do more live recordings, videos here. Some of you, you know about podcasts, they can be daunting. There's a lot of editing. Sometimes it takes a long time, to release the episodes and things like that. So we said, you know what, we're just going to come live with some of our favorite guests. And just talk about some things that you all mentioned that you want to learn more about, that you want to explore more. So here we are. Halona was with us season one when she was you were in Vietnam or Thailand?
At that time, I was in Vietnam.
Vietnam, okay. And Barbara, who is in Belize, she came with us in season two. And I have to say, y'all had so many questions for Barbara. So if you are here, right, and you had questions and you over there and asking things that I cannot answer for you, get on here and please ask the questions while you got her here live. She is not on YouTube. Somebody asked if she's on YouTube. She's not using technology like that. So y'all just got to get her when you get her. So come on, ask some questions. As always, we're really laid back, carefree. We just allow the conversation to flow. But I will certainly be checking the chat. So if you have any questions at any time, I will certainly ask these ladies your questions as well. So let's get started. Please just introduce yourself to our viewers. Some may who have seen you, have seen your interviews from before, some may not. And we'll just get started with Halona.
Hello, how are you?
We good.
What do you want me to start off with? You would like just an introduction of myself?
Absolutely. Who you are. Tell us where tell where you are now. And anything that you want to share about yourself. What kind of work that you do? Like that's a big question. Particularly when we're talking about living abroad and working abroad. Like, what do you do? How do you sustain yourself? So who you are, where you are, what kind of work that you're doing?
Sure. My name is Halona Black. I have been away from this United States since July of 2018. So just
Wow.
crossed my 5-year anniversary. It's one of the
Congrats.
best. Thank you so much. It's one of the best decisions that I've ever made for my life personally. I am a freelance writer. That's how I make a living. And I'm currently living in the country of Rwanda. I've been here about 2.5 years since the early beginnings of the pandemic. I moved here in kind of a rush. And Rwanda has really just sort of been a pleasant surprise. I didn't really intend to be here 2.5 years, but I'm here and I'm glad that I came. I am in my last few weeks of being here, so I'm just sort of wrapping things up and hugging people goodbye and all that other good stuff. So I'll be going off to Turkey for 3 months next, and then after that, I'll be going to Mexico.
I love it. And we'll certainly get into that as well. Thank you for that. Miss Barbara.
Hello. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are around the
Wherever
world.
you are, right?
Wherever you are, yes. I'm in Belize, and like Halana, I've been here almost 5 years. I came to Belize at the end of 2018. And I left the States I gave up everything. I retired, and I had hosted women's wellness retreats in my spare time in the States. So when I came to Belize, that is what I started doing, and I started SheRetreats.life. And since then, I've also started a second brand, Belize Balanced Lifestyle, which is a full wellness brand. So SheRetreats.life is retreats, and Belize Balanced Lifestyle is the stuff, the things you buy while you're retreating and practicing your wellness. So they go hand in hand. And that's what I do really in my spare time. I have about a 4 or 5 hour work week on purpose. And yeah, that's just it. I mean, I really
that.
downshifted, and I stay downshifted. And every now and then I show up with a couple special events and
Mm-hmm.
a few travel experiences. But my wellness lifestyle and my honoring myself has to do with moving slow, and really
Mm.
I have shifted everything else around my life to prioritize and moving slow. And we can probably talk about that in this conversation. But all the
Yeah.
other aspects of your life, from relationships to money to family, right?
Mm-hmm.
Usually drive our decisions. And for me, I came to believe the opposite of that. I'm driving my decisions based on the pace of life, and then family and money and everything else come after that. So that's kind of how I sustain myself. Put in a lot of work around mindset. So the money mentality, money flows to me quickly and easily, and I don't have a space where I say I need to earn so much. It's my
Mm-hmm.
everything's met, and so that's really how I operate my life, and things kind of just happen in a wonderful way here in Belize. Hard to do in the United States, but here in Belize,
You ain't lying.
yeah,
But no,
yeah.
I can absolutely relate, even though I am here. Really, this year has been such an amazing transition. Moved. So I was in a over 3,000 square foot home that I really just could not take care of. That was bringing me, even though I loved it, was bringing me just all kinds of stress because there was so much to do. I really didn't have the time, energy, or money to do it. And it was just too much. So really, moving into a smaller space, which was, definitely a transition because I had been there for about 18 years, but one of the best decisions that I made, just being able to have more time to prioritize and focus on me and not having to worry so much about my space.
Yeah.
Um, and we can certainly go into it, but I certainly um I truly understand the really being slow. I think this was one of the first years that, as entrepreneurs, right, you're supposed to have income goals, right? Well, how much money do you want to make, right? And then based on how much money you want to make, then you figure out how many launches you need, how many clients you need, or how many, if you're product based, how many units you need to sell or whatever. This year, I was just like, I don't care. I mean, as long as I can pay my expenses, I can, do the things that I want to do. I really don't care what my income goals are. I'm not teaching all these classes. People like, when the next time you teaching Reiki? I was like, I don't know. I can't
Right.
tell you. I don't
And the
know.
answer is when it feels good to your soul,
That's
right?
it.
When it feels good to your soul, you move.
That
So,
that that's really it. And it's been like that all year. And it has just been so peaceful, and it has allowed me to focus more on myself and my health. And I needed that break. I needed that time to do that. So I can definitely relate. And yes, it is harder here because everything is expensive. So you still got to bring in money.
yes,
You still got to bring in money. But let's talk about that, because before we came on, we talked about the fact that it is a little challenging, right? Like really trying to be self-aware here and take time out for yourself and really focus on your healing and your wellness. And so what has been your experience, having to do that here in the US and then leaving the US and doing it outside? How has that been, Halana, particularly for you, because I know a big part of your healing journey was when you left?
Yeah. Um, my life was a fumbled mess, and I didn't know it. You know
Mm,
how how you can look back at yourself at what your life used to look like, and like I tried so hard to do things right and to have good relationships and to feel good about myself when I got up in the morning, and everything that I did just didn't feel right ever.
mm,
And then when you leave the States and you have time to sit and be by yourself and you find healthy people who can actually put you on a journey where you can sort of figure out your own way of healing, and you start thinking about how you grew up and all sorts of
mm,
other things. There was no way in the world I could have healed anything in that pile of mess that I was sitting in the United States. I didn't have any help. And the people
mm,
that were around me were just as sick as I was.
mm.
And so when everyone around you is sick, you don't realize that you're sick. You just think it's
Yeah,
normal.
that's normal. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and
What we
so
call
that
toxic environments, and total,
yeah,
just dysfunction. Yeah. It's real. It is
dysfunction.
normalized.
Just absolutely dysfunctional. And what's really funny is that when I left and I started to in my first year of being abroad, and I'm really working hard on myself, and I've hired people, spent money on hiring the correct people to be able to support me in my journey. I said, I can't go back. I can't go back to the States. It's just too much.
Hmm.
Well, I changed that, and I actually went back a year ago, last August. I went back
Okay.
home to go in and stay with family and go see people. And I was able to see and feel just how much I had grown from who I used to be. I love my family to death. I really do. But from being apart, I was able to become more stable in who it is that I want to be
Hmm.
and express how I want to be able to express
Hmm.
myself, set boundaries for how it is
Hmm.
that I want to be treated, and to just really set a really great foundation for who it is that I want to be able to be in the world. And I learned that that's not comfortable for everybody, and
It is
that's all
not.
right. We saw each other last year, and that's about it. We don't need to see anymore. But I don't feel guilty about that anymore
Mm.
because now I know that the world is abundant with other people who are on similar life paths as I
Hmm.
am. And so it's really just sort of my job to connect with those people, whether they're my
Yeah.
family or friends or not.
Yeah.
There's always there's enough love in the world to be able to go around for everybody, and I can find um, the functional people that I want to actually create life with.
Mhm.
I love that because you said the world, right? Like you don't
Mhm.
have to be limited to who
You don't.
your family, right? Who's in your circles. You literally have the whole world at your disposal.
Mhm.
And it's so funny. We were watching, it just came out, I Am Virgo.
Mhm.
It's wild. It's on Amazon Prime. And the whole story, my stepdaughter, bonus daughter, I call them my bonus kids, she wanted to watch it, and it's about this boy who's 13 foot tall, black boy who's 13 feet. um and it was so funny, we were like, so what are they going to do? Just leave him in the house the whole time? And I was telling him, I was like, no, he needs to get out there and then find the people who are just like him. And she was like, well, how do you know it's people like him? And I said, because he exists. So it's got to be other people who
Mhm.
exist too, and not to say that they're 13 feet tall, but, they're different too.
Mhm.
And it was so funny. And of course, during the process, he starts to meet some of those people. But, that's what I look at it as. If I exist and this is who I am and this is what's important to me, there's got to be other people out there as well who can
Mhm.
vibe, with that as well. And so I love that. Like, you don't have to be restricted to finding those people where you are. They may not be there.
Right.
They might be somewhere else. And, if you are doing the work of really being you, and peeling back those layers and, really doing that work to find yourself, you're going to find other people who are also doing the same things.
Yeah.
So I love that. So if y'all didn't get that, that is a tip. If you feel like you're in a space where, you're restricted by the people who you are around, you don't have to choose to stay around those people. You can go elsewhere. So thank you for that. Yeah. Barbara, what about you? In Belize, slow down, right? How has that been different from, your life in the US, and how has that contributed to really your wellness and your well-being?
Yeah, it's really different. And I would say in the last 5 years that I've been here, I probably have made two or three of my own wellness transitions, right?
Mhm.
Because when I was in the States, I did not know how disconnected I was from my source, myself, right?
Mm.
And I was distracted by the pace of life, not knowing that I was sick, right? So I did my immediate save self, desperation, let's go, get here. And then found a sense of calm because maybe for about 6 or 7 months I did nothing, right? It was just be in the environment, look at the trees, adjust my eyesight, right? You have outer sight and inner sight, right? So I was using the environments, the outer things I was looking at here to adjust my inner sight. I can come back to that later. So my first transition towards wellness was just the removal from the toxic environment, right? Just getting into a new space. And then the second was really just kind of an examination of self and how I'm spending my time. And then, we all got into this COVID space. That's probably where I was in the middle of my time here in Belize. And then I got sick, but not from COVID. I had other illnesses that became really hard for me. And I decided to start a master's program in Ayurveda and integrative medicine. And at the time that I started the program, I thought, okay, I can learn a little bit I had digestive problems. I had thyroid cancer. I didn't know I had thyroid cancer. And I also had some uterine problems. So I ended up having hysterectomy too. So I had all these problems. And then, the stress leads to emotional problems and all that. So I started this Ayurveda program thinking I could get myself a little healthier and that I could add whatever knowledge I found to my retreats, right? And that I could create space for other women. And so I did that. And what I learned was that I was off track in the US, not necessarily because of my own behavior, but our lack of knowledge in general. So I just kind of started this quest of knowledge. And so part of my wellness journey has to do with learning about all of the modalities, the whole self, consciousness, about all the 8 limbs of yoga, about our whole selves. And that's really how I spend my time when I'm not hanging out and doing all the other joyful, beautiful things I can do here. And so that's really the difference. My wellness practice, I'm going to tell you, my wellness practice in the States was fake. I'm going to tell you what it looked like, right? So maybe I would go to the gym. Gym is not fake in that way, but these are the things that
it was surface.
The status quo tells you. Maybe I would go to the gym, maybe I wouldn't, but I might try to eat, kale smoothies for a period of time because someone told me I needed green leafy vegetables. Or, I might pull back on carbs or these various trendy diets, or I may start hot yoga, or I may come home at night and I might do hot baths one night or whatever. But I never, ever took a look at self. I never stopped to look at nature. How am I flowing in nature, right? And coming to Belize and being in nature has made me say, okay, 6 a.m. I'm waking up just like all of the other things in nature. You start hearing things differently, right? Your body wakes without an alarm once you shift. Sun goes down, you start going down. You're not out looking for lights and shiny things and all the things that stimulate our nervous systems, right? That keep us from being able to calm down. Are y'all hearing what I'm saying, right? So it's really, I'm getting at it's an environmental shift is the biggest change for me in terms of wellness, right? And so not to throw staying in the States in anybody's face, right? Because you have these environments, but you still have to move. You still have to travel. You still have to breathe and experience these things. Nature is really, really, really the biggest thing that I could say right now. Not necessarily connecting to nature and being in nature, but knowing that you are nature.
Yeah, I mean, you're really talking about being in harmony. And it's easy to be in harmony when you are in nature because that is harmony. Like that's what is. And, and I certainly know this, and it's funny. You said so much.
Sorry.
when you talk about yoga, right, and Patanjali, the Eightfold Path, and I remember like when I was on my yoga journey. This was I feel like I'm so old. I don't know. This was probably 10, 15 years ago, and I went to India to study yoga. So I was in India for 5 weeks, and it was such a life-changing experience. And I had already known that yoga was, much deeper than how we learned it here, right? Because everything is commercialized. So what you're talking about, everything is very surface because it's a capitalist society. And so, you're always being sold something. So we know what the problems are. We know what you're looking for. We're just going to keep, telling you new solutions, but we're going to give you the watered down version of it. So it doesn't work. So you're constantly looking for something that's going to work, and it never does.
Yeah. Definitely. That's where I
And
was.
so yoga for me, I learned yoga when I was at Howard University from, a guy who was just, who was a Buddhist and who just wanted to share it. And so I actually learned yoga in its authenticity. And so when I left Howard and I said, okay, I want to, continue practicing, I went to these studios and I was like, what the hell is this? This ain't what I learned. This is not, this ain't yoga. I was so done. And so I stopped doing it for like 2 or 3 years because I was like, that's not what it is. And I didn't know where to go to really get it. And so that's what I ended up doing. I ended up going to India to do my yoga teacher training. And when I came back here and I was teaching it, people like, nobody teaches yoga like this. Like, where did you get this? And I'm like, this is actually yoga. I don't know what they teach in here. This is yoga. And so that's a very real thing. Like, I had to leave in order to really get the truth of it and bring it back. But even continuing to practice here was challenging because at some point, life just be lifing, and I just couldn't, continue it in the authentic way that I was doing it.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, God, that is so incredibly real. I feel that at my core. And so that brings me to this question, like, and, just your honest opinion, like, do you feel like that you really can be healthy in the sense of like holistic wellness? And so we're talking about mind, body, spirit, soul, all parts of ourselves. Do you feel like you can truly be healthy in the US culture?
Yeah, that's tough. That's real tough, right? One, what does healthy look like? And maybe we strive for balance. And then also a constant quest. There's always movements around us. There's always things changing, right? So there's no, I'm going to do this constantly and get the same results. The results eventually will change, and the behavior will have to change, So can you be? I think it takes a couple things: focus, right? A desire to, and how do you get to that, right? Is that a natural feeling? Is that a natural desire? Probably not, because of the commercialism, right? Our natural desires in the States, unfortunately, is to strive for acquiring things, right? Nobody says, "Oh, I want to grow up to be healthy when I get older." They say that's the last thing on the list.
I want to lose weight.
I want all of these things, and I want to do it while I'm healthy.
Yeah.
Nobody aspires to be healthy first, right? But you can be. So it takes focus, or unfortunately for a lot of us, and this is my case, it sometimes takes getting us knocked down and hitting a little bit of rock bottom, or maybe the worst of rock bottom, for us to think differently, want differently, and to do differently, right? I have this saying I tell people, because I do change management. I have a degree in change management. And that's what life coaching and life transformation is about, how to get from point A to point B. And people have to have a desire to change, first of all. And most people don't have a desire to change because their current situation doesn't hurt bad enough. Just don't hurt bad enough, right? Good with what you're faced with. Every day you make a choice to stay in the same set of circumstances. That's really, really what it is. So can you? Yes, when you make the decision first, and then you have to have the right tools, the right space, the right environment, the right support to do it. And also the mindset, right, which comes along with that, because it's not constant. We all fall back. I'm in a moment of transparency. I drink. Like, I drink, and that's part of my wellness journey. It's one day I'm going to pull back on the amount of alcohol that I take in on a daily basis. I know what it's doing to me, but I have to make a choice in doing it first. That's just it. Yeah. So, yeah.
It's real. Halona, what do you think?
I think about that all the time. One of my reasons for going to Mexico is because there's conferences and things that I want to go to in the United States. I just don't want to be in the States to get there.
You're like, where else can I get the information?
I go to the States for 3 days worth of a conference and roll back out. I don't need to stay there. I don't know. I want to say yes, but there needs to be the proper support. People need proper support
Mhm.
and help, and to be able to learn how to be able to leave the environment that they're in. That's really just what has been the most helpful for me. I guess at this point, because I can see there's a difference between where I was and where I am now.
Mhm.
I could probably go someplace and figure things out. And but for other people, I don't know. I always tell people, in order for you to be able to see yourself, sometimes you do need to be able to leave for a little bit. I don't care if you just go to Canada for 6 months. Maybe
Yeah.
that might be the thing that you need to do. But to sit in the same environment that made you sick, I'm not really sure that
Mm.
you can. Or that at least it just makes it more challenging, at least.
Yeah. No, I mean, for sure. That's to sit in the same environment where you're sick. That's
Mm.
yeah. I mean, that is real, and that's why we say, sometimes you have to leave in order to find yourself. And that was really one of the reasons that we started this podcast, because that's what I was seeing. And even in my own journey, and even though I haven't, lived abroad, even though I've been abroad, but haven't lived abroad, I know the experiences that I had changed my life.
Mhm.
Um, Now being able to sustain it once I got back, that was, the difficulty, but certainly, eyes were open, right? Certainly
Mhm.
very aware. And so now how do you maintain that? How do you continue that? How do you, choose every single day to walk in what you know and what you've been exposed to? And that's certainly what I have found to be the challenge. And Halana, I'm just thinking about. I remember your story, in your healing journey. So all the things, right, that you initially experienced, and like, what were some of the things that you found where you were that really helped you? Because I know, like, you lost weight, like there was a lot of things that you let go of, and you've maintained it. You look amazing. I can't lose weight and maintain it to save my life. Like, what were some of the things that you had that allowed you to be able to do that?
Um, Gosh, where do I even start? It's been okay. So it started off with the detox program that I was in when I lived in Thailand. Thailand was my first program, was my first country when I left the States, and so I spent 6 months working with an herbalist, a shaman, and all sorts of other people.
Mhm.
And you sort of learn these holistic practices. I learned meditation, spent some time sitting in a temple with monks for like 10 days to do vipassana meditation. And you learn all of these things, but they don't actually stick until you actually have time to practice it over time.
Mhm.
So I've really spent the last 5 years sort of implementing those basics that I learned in Thailand during the 6 months that I was there.
Wow.
So, you can learn meditation, but meditation is a practice. I
That's
didn't
right.
really get the point or even how to do meditation until the pandemic started.
Mhm.
And so with the teachers who would tell me to just sit and watch your thoughts, I was like, what do you mean? Like, what does that even mean? It took me a year and a half for me to figure out what to sit and watch your thoughts actually mean. And then when the pandemic started and I started seeing everyone sort of like losing their mind,
Mhm.
so to speak, and then I was just like, oh, sit and watch your thoughts. I'm not in the same, huff and hurry like everyone else is, because I can sit and watch myself thoughts and
Mhm.
tell it to calm down. That's what I've been doing in meditation, and didn't realize that. And I was like, oh, so then
Mhm.
you take your meditation to another level. And then I got into like doing things like watercolor painting and just being
Mhm.
creative, and then that was something for me to calm myself down. And just going out and being able to exercise. When I got to Rwanda, I started running and started doing 5Ks and 10Ks and half marathons,
Wow.
plus the other stuff. Wound up losing 100 pounds, and really wasn't even doing it on purpose. That
Wow.
really was not my goal. I knew, I was very clear that I needed to lose weight, but I just wanted to feel better in my body.
Mhm.
So you just start picking up things as you go along. And now at year 5, I just feel like I feel so much more whole. I feel mentally stable. I just feel whole and complete. And I couldn't explain that before. And so now I've spent 5 years really just sort of being to myself, being extremely selfish, deeply selfish, and not having to apologize for it to anybody. I would, do things in my business. I started off making um, maybe $1,000 a month in my freelance writing business to making. I've got many $10,000 months in my freelance writing. That's the big difference.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't do that before because it was just too much going on.
Mm.
And so now I'm doing an experiment. I'm moving to bigger cities now to just sort of see how I gel with it. I don't know. I may or may not like it. May wind up going to live on the beach somewhere like Miss Barbara. But I just want to be able to see what it's like when I move to a bigger environment and I have access to more people. I want to be able to take art classes and to be able to share more of what it is that I've learned, just because I feel like I'm in a space to share now. So I couldn't do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that. Yeah. I mean, because you have to actually go through the journey first, right? Like, and,
Yeah.
and that's another difference here. It's so sad. You see so many people who are sharing, right, and trying to teach, and they haven't done the work themselves,
Hmm.
right? Like they're totally just trying to skip that process because, it's very easy to pretend to be an expert or look to be an expert when all I got to do is post content on social media or have you. So I can totally just skip the journey and just
Hmm.
act like I know. And we'll fall for it because we don't know.
Right. Hmm.
Right? Like
Hmm.
if you don't know. And so for you, you're like, I've done the work.
Hmm.
I love that. I took what I learned in the first 6 months and I've been practicing it over this 5 years. And now I can share
Yeah.
because I've done the work, because now I'm whole and now I'm healthy. I love that. Um, yeah, Barbara, what about you? So I know one of the things that you were talking about, like the work that you're doing in Belize and, some of the things that, you've been seeing there that you've been experiencing. How has your experience been there in doing, all of the work that you started doing for yourself, and I totally get that. Let me pick this up for me. And then maybe eventually, like I said, I'll share it for others, but I want to start it for me. So how has it been, working on yourself, but then also to helping others as well?
Yeah, I pick it up and put it down. And I think it's important to start with that because that's what balance is about. None of this is like, I'm going to be doing this all the time, right? And so it's been good for me that I can seasonally find the things that work for me. I did go through a period of time. This might have been last year. Last year, at the end of 2021, I decided I was going to make 2022 a big year, right? And I probably stretched myself a little bit too much. I was like, I'm gonna do this retreat here and I'm gonna do that retreat here. I maybe had 6 or 7 retreats planned for that year. And it was more than I could handle. Here I was finding myself back in this space where there were deadlines and there was pressure and I couldn't move slow, right? And so I had to put some of those things down. And that's life, because like you said, life is life, but again, the environment allows me to do that because one, the cost of living is lower. So I can make that choice and say, I'm not going to work this month. I don't work January. I don't work July. And I don't work December.
Hmm.
I just don't. And
That alone would help me to move, okay? Where I could just be like, I don't work.
But I have found that those are the times of the year that I have to honor my mental and my physical self.
Hmm.
Those are the times of the year because I'm now connected to nature. Those are the times of the year that I come out of my hibernation, that I start to see the light a little more. My self comes up and I'm planning early in the year. In the summer, I'm taking a break. In July, I am reigniting. I'm letting the sun, give me some more vitamin D, spending more time outside with family and friends. Don't take for granted the social spaces and how important our relationships are to our wellness. And so during those times where I'm not working, and I'm using that term lightly because when you look at my life, I'm not doing anything that looks like work to anybody else, but it is work. um, and so those are the biggest things. Ups and downs and fits and starts is okay, right? We need those. If you look at every other species, they have cycles of activity and cycles of rest. Okay, humans have missed that cycle up so much. And if you could find your natural cycle, right? Your natural cycle may be seasonally, it may be weekly, it might be monthly, but find it for yourself. What does it look like? What feels good to you? When do you need to rejuvenate yourself? When can you go into third and fourth gear? And really, that's really kind of what I do down here. I just make decisions about what I want to do now. I opened this store in February, and I've been here most days because it's fun. I come in here and I meet people, and they come in and talk. But there's days that I'm like, I don't want to go in that store, and then I don't. So I've had customers come in and say, "Oh, I've been trying to get here and see when you open." And that's because maybe I went sailing, maybe I went, and had a key day, or maybe went for a drive or something like that. So that's been the biggest, and that shift for me is that I'm honoring those cycles of life.
I love that.
And life tells me to sit down.
I love that. I mean, that's real. What'd you say?
That's totally been my goal. As a matter of fact, I was writing down in my journal yesterday that usually there's like a week or two when I can take off in 3 different months, but I really want to be able to spend 3 months in meditation. One meditation month will be spent, I'll go someplace probably in Asia to do a sitting meditation. And then I want to be able to do a meditation where I'm focused on my creativity. So I'll do like a writing meditation somewhere, and I'm totally focused on my creative project. And then I'll go do another one during the year where I will focus on painting somewhere. And I'm just doing painting. I'm learning and focusing on my creative arts because that's what's important to me. I don't want to be, making money and running around all the time. That's not what I want to be doing. You make it in the background, but I need rest and focus on creativity.
We all need rest. That's the issue. We all need it. We don't observe it. We don't take it.
One of the unique things. Yeah, I was just going to go back. The second part of your question was, how do I also manage wellness as a wellness practitioner, right? You probably experienced this as a Reiki practitioner, and that, when you are in the space of speaking and helping people, it's natural for them to talk about the challenges, and they're bringing the weights of the world with them into your wellness space. And so a lot of times you have to take a little extra time out for yourself after, being in these deep spirit spaces or going to deep spaces and experiencing things with people. I just did a detox weekend here with another colleague, and we had people in the store 3 days in a row. And Monday I was just like, we're not doing anything. We're not going to think. We're not even going to talk about what we experienced this weekend. All the reports, all of the feedback, all of the things that go after can wait. Let's just take a few days to breathe and just exhale, meditate, like Halona said, and however you meditate. And that becomes even more important when you're interacting with people. So that's from the wellness practitioner. Even if you're not a wellness practitioner and you're in a space with people who are stressed, you're experiencing each other's stress. And so getting away from one another and having no space in that time alone is also helpful.
Yeah. Whoo, I had so much come up for me as the two of you were talking. Oh my God. No, so Barbara, when you said like really just like knowing our seasons in our cycles, right? I just think about how many of us are suffering, depressed, stressed out just because we don't know our cycles. Yeah. We don't know our natural cycles because we've been thrown into a cycle. Right. And so it's kind of like, if you work like a regular 9 to 5, business is totally different because it's just, but if you work a 9 to 5, you're told like you got to be at work at 9. And you leave. Well, you don't even get to leave at 5:30, 6 o'clock. Right? What if that is not your natural cycle? I am not a morning person.
It's not a natural cycle for anyone.
Don't get me up in the morning. I am not productive. I can't do anything. I tried. Like when I first started my business, I remember I had clients, oh, well, can I see you early before I go to work? I tried it. I was like, I will never in life do this again. I am not productive. I was like trying to do do Reiki at 8 a.m. I couldn't do it. It's like, nope. So we don't know what our natural cycles are because we're thrown into this artificial cycle that really isn't about our well-being, but is really about the well-being of the system that we are working for. And so this is what we're told that we're supposed to do. And that's one of the reasons why I love, being an entrepreneur, because I'm like, nope, my clients will tell you, I don't schedule anything before 11. You're not going to see me. Like, this is my cycle. This is how I best work. But I've had the opportunity to figure that out, to learn myself, as they say, and now to be able to operate in that. So you're getting me at my best. So, the cycles. I mean, how do people find out their cycles? What do they do?
Well, I think it starts with removing yourself from the environment. You have to sit still. You have to sit still. And sometimes, listen, we do these vacations. So I'm going to go someplace for a week. Maybe if you can go to maybe a silent retreat or somewhere quiet, right? It's not the vacation where you're doing spas and, trip excursions and all of that. It's getting into a space. Maybe it's staying home. Maybe it's just staying home in your bedroom, in your kitchen, cooking meals. It's just quiet. That's just what I'm going to say. It starts with stillness first, right? And then it's a vision towards your path out of that stillness back into activity, right? Mm-hmm. What does that routine look like? And how are you feeling around the things around you? Very, very, very hard to do and stick with it, right? Again, it's difficult to do.
It is, because I mean, it's, and even if, of course, here, like, even if you have the time to do that, then you come back into this environment, you have to now shift your natural cycle to fit, where you are. And so it is extremely challenging. But it just made me think of SAD, which is seasonal affective disorder, where so many people get depressed, right? In the winter months, we got daylight savings time. Why? That ain't normal. We changing the clocks. Like, that is so not normal. And so now it's dark at 5 p.m. and, you're leaving to go to work, it's dark. You're coming home and it's dark, and all you see is darkness.
Darkness, yeah.
And you wonder why people, like, this is a time where you should just be chilling and not having to really do anything.
Mm-hmm. And your food that you eat during those times changes, right? You shouldn't be eating heavy foods in the summertime, just wintertime things, you switch it up, right?
That's another thing about the food. And I Halona, I've seen it with you, like your diet changes. Sometimes you'll post the pictures of what you're eating and all of that. Like, how has that been? Like, so I just finished watching this diet documentary on Netflix called Poison, and I don't even know why I watched it, because all it did was
I didn't watch it.
It just pissed me off because it didn't really tell me anything that I didn't already know, but two, it offered absolutely no solutions. So it's like, your food is jacked up. It's crap. This is what's happening. These are, these are all the people who have died from, salmonella and all of these things. This is how, a lot of these major corporations have kept these factories, right, with all, doing all things wrong, totally saying that they're in compliance and they're not, falsifying information, all of that. Congress can't seem to do nothing about it. The FDA ain't doing nothing. The USDA, you got all these organizations, they only have one aspect, and they'll say, I'm not responsible for this part and I'm not responsible for that part. So meanwhile, we still have our food is being poisoned and there's nothing we can do.
Wow.
I was like, well, thank you for that.
Wow.
Thank you for that. So how has that been, like, with your food? Like, how different is that, when you're in other countries?
Oh man, it's night and day. I mean, there's not even a comparison. I mean, I just really, all I do is focus on eating real fruits and vegetables. I mean, it's not, and sometimes I'll have periods where I'm doing like mostly raw foods. I may have a piece of fish here and there, every 2-3 months. But really, I just eat real fruits and vegetables, and really that's it. And when I went home a year ago, and last August, I was just really shocked at how turned off and disgusted I was at places like, a Taco Bell. I was like, y'all are really online for this? Like, I couldn't understand it. Oh, because it was such a turnoff. The smell is just strange. And I'm like, do you even
Mm,
know what's in this? Like I can't even believe that you all are even sitting around and like really excited about eating these foods. It just doesn't make sense to me because it's not real food. It doesn't fill you up. It doesn't do anything. And I've noticed over the last 5 years that there's a difference between foods that just fill you up because
mhm,
we like to be able to feel like our stomachs are being filled and
mhm,
being nourished. Those are two totally different things.
mhm,
Now what I look for is foods that are that have a lot of water in it. Like I
mhm,
need to be, I notice that as I get older, I need to be hydrated. Like if I haven't had enough water, either drinking actual water or having enough fruits that have water in it, or to
mhm.
have salads that have water filled vegetables, I can't function. I'm just like,
Wow.
what is life? I can't do this with you all. Like, I don't even like to go too far from my house because I can't go to a restaurant and be properly nourished at a restaurant. I can eat potatoes, but that's it. And potatoes, I love potatoes, but that's not nourishing. That's not what I need to be able to be creative, to be able to think, to be able to have enough energy to get up in the morning and move. All of those things are really important, especially as you get older. Like your body starts to fall apart after a
Listen.
certain age if you have not taken care of it. I figured that out when I turned 40. That was the reason why I said I have to pay attention to my health, because I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't think. I couldn't be creative at all. I had way too much weight on myself. It was too much.
That's real. That is
Yeah.
so real. My doctor told me, he said, this whole 40 is the new 40 is the new 30 or whatever. He was like, that ain't real. He said, if you think about it, people, in the past, died at 60, 70 years old. So he's like,
Hmm.
when you hit 40, like you're halfway, like you're
Usually
halfway.
older.
He was like, your body is designed to start breaking down. You are on your
Mhm.
way. And I'm like, that's not the narrative, right? The narrative is like, you can be 40 and, if you're healthy, you should still be able to do some of the same things that you can do when you're 20 and 30. And that's a sign of health. But
Hmm.
is that really the natural cycle of things, right? Like, are you meant to still do the same things that you did then? And my body's like, hell no. Hell no.
And you shouldn't. And really, you shouldn't, Downshifting, the second half of life, downshifting.
Exactly, exactly. And that again, not that is certainly not the cycle here. But yeah, no, that is absolutely real, Halana. That was one of the things that they talked about because we look at the foods that we're eating, and I'm like, even if you want to eat real fruits and vegetables, right? Like we still got to look at, like, is this a real fruit and vegetable? Like we don't even know what we're getting here. So we try to eat well and we're still failing because the food is not even our fault.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
How has it been for you, Barbara, in Belize? I mean, that's always the
Well,
goal, to be in a tropical.
we buy fruits from the veggie stand, our fruits and vegetables from the veggie stand here. And there are grocers who do bring in the packaged and processed foods, but that stuff is expensive to import, right? And
Mm.
it's not natural. And so, most people here, a lot of people have fruit trees, vegetable trees in their yards. I mean, that's like way of life, so that's available. And available whether you use it by choice or available because that's all you have is available. Okay. Developing country. And then
Mhm.
also, you can go into the restaurants who are also using the fresh fruits and vegetables here
Mhm.
as well. So think about it this way: to what it takes to import is costly, right? It requires refrigeration if you're talking fresh or somewhat fresh. So it only makes sense for restaurants and establishments to use what's grown here locally. And so usually when you're going out to eat here, you're getting better quality food than you might on a regular basis in the States. Fast food, the chains don't exist here like they do in the States. There's no McDonald's, there's no KFC, no Popeyes, no corner bakery cafes, no Chipotle's, no mid-level fast food is what I think that's called. So fast food here is tacos and burritos, but I guarantee you some woman got up that morning to make those tortillas fresh from, little flour, baking soda, whatever. It wasn't mass produced, and including lots of preservatives and stuff, and that's off the streets here. And so even if you're eating rice and beans regularly, which is not always the healthiest choice, you're still getting the best rice and beans, here. So being in this lifestyle here is definitely a little easier to stay away from the less healthy and more harmful stuff. It just doesn't exist here, but you still also have to be responsible for your own eating, at the end of the day, right? So it's just the choices, I can't get McDonald's if I wanted to. Closest McDonald's is Chatham Mall.
That helps.
I gotta go.
Especially if you have a McDonald's addiction, you can't get it.
So you're gonna do something a little healthier, at the same time, fat sodas and beer and alcohol is still very prevalent, around. So people still have that to contend with. Yeah. But less choices.
But it's different when you have a balance as well. Because like you said, right, you might not get it all right. Like, there's going to be cycles of things. And so even if you're consuming those things, if you're eating better, there's still a bit of a balance versus it all just being bad.
Yeah.
So that makes a difference. Jessica, welcome.
Yes, I have been listening to this amazing conversation unfold, and I'm just loving everything that you all have been talking about. I definitely have a couple of questions for Halona, who has been, I feel like you were like one of the first people we talked to. Yeah. I was like, yeah, I'm out. Yeah. And I can't deal with it no more. So what are the changes that you've seen over the years? Are you seeing more Black women coming? Are you seeing less Black women? What are some of the differences that you've experienced since you've been one of the ones that have been gone for like the longest? Well, that we know of.
Yeah, there's definitely way more interest, way more people who are showing up. I get hit in my DMs all the time from people who've listened to you all show. I'm like, this was a long time ago. Y'all just
listen, YouTube is forever. Okay. That's the beauty of content. It stays there forever. So
it stays forever. And people are like, I don't know where you are in the world right now, but girl, I'm trying to get out of here. Can you help me? And, I'll point people towards different resources. When people actually come to the country that I'm in, I'm willing to meet with people, for lunch and, help people with resources and all sorts of other things. But yeah, it's really beautiful. I love it. I love seeing all of these Black women who are just like, I'm done. I'm done trying to take care of everybody else. And, maybe they get to a point where like my kids are finally grown. They just left for college and I'm ready to go. Like, let's get this together. What do I need to do first? So that's really, it's a beautiful thing to be able to see.
Wow.
Well, I'm excited to hear that a lot of women are listening and going, okay, I think I can do this. And then reaching out and having the wherewithal to go, okay, I'm actually going to DM her and ask her how she did this or if she can help me do this. Barbara, are you experiencing kind of that same thing? I don't know how long have you been gone exactly? How many years?
Almost 5 years. And definitely I'm experiencing and seeing an uptick. And it's been really, really nice, right? When I first came here, I did feel somewhat alone in that space. Like, where are my sisters? And I found a couple of communities internationally. And maybe for the first year and a half that I was here, my trusted advisor, sister friends were abroad. They weren't even here in Belize. They were other Black women who had left the States and gone other places. But since then, spaces like Black Women Leave America, and even I had a retreat group. I have several retreat groups on Facebook of several hundred people in it. That conversation space about what am I doing here and what are the people I'm meeting doing here, I think has been very encouraging to other Black women. I have an amazing story to tell in this way. Like my best friends have moved here. Like my true best friends. Like my best friend that I met when I was 18 in college, literally just got off the plane yesterday. I can't tell you how excited that I am
That
for
is
her.
so dope.
And I have another colleague who I worked with for like 25 years who moved here 2 years ago. And then just seeing the network. So they come and visit, spend time, feel the energy, downshift a little bit, go back and then think about their circumstances and like, maybe, can I? Yes, you can. You can do it any way you want to do it, right? Just, architect it for you. And so now I'm seeing a lot of people, even down here in Placencia, where, it's a small village of 2,000 people. It's a couple dozen of us here now, so it's nice.
I love that. Look at you bringing folks over.
I don't know about you guys, but wherever I go, and I'm imagining that I'll probably do this abroad as well, because I think I'm just trained at this point, but I'm always looking for like the Black women or Black people, right? Like anywhere that I go, like,
No,
where are they? Hey! So that's why I asked, because I know that that's kind of a thing for me wherever I go, especially in the States. I am like, okay, where are they? Okay, there you are. Hey, how are you doing? You okay? You good? And we talked a little bit before we started the live stream about just some of the things, we don't want to paint this just as all rosy and beautiful as well, right? What are some of the negatives or things that you've come up across? I know, Barbara, you were mentioning that there were some things that you were experiencing that you were like, okay, here's some obstacles that I need to overcome. So what are those exactly?
Yeah, I got sick here in Belize twice. And both times I had to leave the country to get medical coverage or medical care, right? I ended up having to have surgery in one of those instances. And so I think that the challenge is just kind of knowing and having a plan for yourself and your wellness journey. I didn't plan on getting sick. I didn't know that I have remnants of past illnesses just waiting to fester up one random day. So I think that's the biggest challenge it's been for me is like, what does that look like? And so I had to make some wellness choices. I couldn't do the things that I was doing before, which were not real self-care, which we talked about early in this conversation. I did all the things self-care, so that's kind of really was that challenge. All the other things that I've been faced with were things that I probably would have faced with had I moved from Detroit to Florida or New York to Georgia or whatever. And, and that's finding your tribe, finding, living in what part of town is going to be best for you, getting a sense of the vibe of the community and the energy of the regular locals, right? Because you meet different people and you assimilate different ways. And so that also has kind of impacted the wellness journey too. My community here is much different than my community looks like at home, and so just being ready for that newness, a lot of times we stick in the same place. We live in the same metropolitan area our whole lives. That's not unusual, by the way. Many people, die on the same, corner block radius that they grew up on. But to grow, we have to leave those spaces. It's kind of what I'm getting at, is that's part of the growth thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that is so incredibly true. And I think that's a good point that you said that, like those challenges are things that you would have experienced if you moved from one state to another. Even if it's not one state, like I moved in the same state, but there's still challenges. Same thing, like where am I going to go now, to go to the grocery store, or, same thing, finding people here, because even though I'm in the same state, it's still a different place. It's a different energy. It's just a whole different vibe. So there are changes that are going to have to be navigated. Yeah. So I like how you said that, because I think a lot of people would look at that as an obstacle and think that maybe I'm not ready for that. But any change is, that's going to be a part of it. Yeah, I think that's good. What about you, Halona?
Challenges, I would say finding a community. And it's not so much about finding other Black people or Black women to be able to hang around with, especially now, because, we're sort of everywhere. it's the finding people that I can be open and honest about the changes that I've experienced over the last 5 years,
Mhm.
because I'm finding that a lot of people fall into that surface wellness when they come
Mhm.
abroad, because I don't think that they have people to be able to support them on their journey. They just sort of show up and they're just like, I'm here. And, they think that just because they've arrived, they're in the space,
Yeah.
that the change will just happen.
Yeah.
Um,
Because
and
they're coming
so,
with the same mindset.
right, right,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's just really sort of difficult to find people to be able to make sincere friendships with people who actually are doing the work, are interested in doing the work, um, and are sincerely interested in making the change beyond just the 3 day smoothie diet.
Mhm.
you know Nothing's wrong with any of that stuff, doing the keto and all that other stuff, but there's just so much more. But if you don't have the proper guidance, it's really difficult to be able to get into that. Like, I don't think I could have been able to do it if I had just done it by myself. I'm successful. I feel successful because I've had people who have helped me.
Mm.
Yeah.
Ooh, that was a mouthful. Asking for help and asking for help from professionals who can actually
Right,
help you, not from your mama, your
right.
sister, your friends who like is there in the same space as you.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh, that's a whole conversation. Jessica, did you have any more questions? Because I know you like, oh, I got questions.
No, I think what I've been doing is kind of going through some of the questions that we've gotten on comments that we've gotten on YouTube from some of you all's different episodes and things to that effect, and trying to pull through some of the questions. That I want to read one comment specifically. Is like, for me, I want to leave the US so I can maximize my income potential without having to worry about paying outrageous amounts of money for basic things. And I don't like driving. I also want to expand my mind because it feels so trapped here in terms of how I'm supposed to be a Black woman. I just want more opportunities and not to have to be tied to anything or stigmas. I want to try something new. What advice would you give to someone like that, right? Because I was listening to a conversation not too long ago where someone was saying, or it might have been our conversation actually. If you think you're just going to come to Mexico or wherever and pay, $200, $300 a month and be good, you're gonna
Yeah,
be good, but it's not going to be the living standard that you're looking for, right? Right now, we're seeing a lot of the memes and things go around
yeah.
like, oh yeah, you
Shakira
only pay
said that.
$100 a
Yeah,
month.
you can backpack, you can do all of that, but that may not be the lifestyle that you want to live. But you can.
Right,
Right.
But is that what you want? Yeah,
Right. So
yeah.
she's talking about maximizing her income potential without having to worry about paying outrageous amounts of money for basic things. Do you find that that's your experience, or do you find that that's kind of cap? Like people are just saying that, but it's not really true.
Mm,
well, I mean, I started my journey off in Southeast Asia just because I wasn't making a ton of money at the beginning of this. I was probably making $1,200 in a month was a good that was a good month for me at the time.
and that's
um you
rent.
know yeah, and my rent was $250. The most I paid in a luxury apartment was 350. It had a little kitchen and all kinds of other stuff. um but yeah, I mean, I try to tell people to figure out your money before you leave. Like, you need to be able to have some sort of income before you leave, because you need to be able to know what are the processes to be able to keep your business going, or whether you're doing a remote part-time job or whatever it is that you want to be able to do. Um, but yeah, it's you can find there's you can find places in the world where your cost of living is going to be cheaper, but you also have to understand what type of living do you want. I think you can get a very high level of living in Southeast Asia, but everybody doesn't want to go that far. Everyone doesn't want to be a Black person in Asia. I get all of that. When people come to Africa, they think that they're going to get this super cheap life,
Mm-mm.
$300 rent. In my opinion, Rwanda in particular, can be very expensive. Like I have an apartment, it's beautiful, I get a lot for it, but I'm paying $800 a month. And I know for a lot of people who are coming here, they're like, $800 is way too much. So then they wind up going to, a more, I'll put in air quotes, a local neighborhood where they may be paying 350, but you have to deal with, local issues. Like, maybe the landlord may not be all that accessible, or maybe you might have to have a bug problem, all sorts of other stuff. So you're going to have to pay a little bit more to be able to get to a spot that's going to be comfortable, um, for you. So you're just going to have to sort of figure out what it is that you want, how much money do you have to spend, and what sort of level of living. Because you can go to the village and be fine. You can build yourself a little spot in the village, and you can have some access to some modern things like internet and all sorts of other things. But who are you going to talk to once you get out there? You don't speak the local language.
Halina, you gotta speak to us because we ain't been there. So when you say village, are you saying like a hut? Like what?
No, not a hut. Not a hut. You can find a spot, but it's raw land where you're going to be. You can build, a little house with all the modern amenities if you want to do that. But there's nothing in the area for you to be able to get to, for you to be able to communicate with other people who might live in the capital city. And of course, this totally depends on what city you're staying in. But the way a lot of African countries tend to work is there's the capital city, and then there might be a few minor cities that might be quite far from the capital city itself. But in between, there may be some places where you can go, but not a lot of people are going to be able to speak English. People have different education levels, and that's an adjustment if you've never been to Africa before. All of that it's an adjustment. I'm not saying you can't do it, and people certainly do it, but they've chosen to do it, and they're enjoying it. And then there are other people who get here and they're like, oh, no, thank you.
Yeah,
they have to go. So you got to know what
this. But let me just say, $800 is still significantly cheaper. Oh. So I would gladly pay $800.
It was a jump from that $350 that I was paying in Asia. I was like, oh, this is great. And then you get here and you're like, oh, wait, I got to pay $800. People are certainly paying more. People are paying $1,200 and $1,500 a month for their rent. Yeah. So it all depends.
But even that, coming from a place where I'm paying $2,800, you're like, yeah, I can do that. Right. So I want to get back to some of the comments here, because there was one in particular. I would like, Barbara, you're for some reason like, girl. Now you don't said that you don't do this technology thing, but I'm gonna tell you right now, you probably want to look into it.
Okay. I get you.
Your episode.
I was like, if they don't stop asking me questions about Barbara, I can't answer this. I don't know.
So I'm just
like, how can I find you? How can I find you? I'm like, I don't know. Come here.
I would love to meet Barbara for more questions. Listen, so someone said this is a month ago, but we catching up to y'all. Sorry.
Yeah.
Listen, I could cry right now if this is the same lady in 2017 when I was in Belize. We exchanged numbers, but I've changed my phone number a few times and lost it. I can't remember if her name was Barbara, but it sounds the same. I fell in love and planned to go back around 2020, then COVID. I recently started looking into moving to Belize again, and research brought me here. Either way, I would love to connect with Miss Barbara. How can I connect with her? Like 4 or 5 people said, how can they connect with you?
Wow, that's
fantastic. Some folks wanted your ebook. Love this episode. How to contact Barbara. I would love to get her ebook. So yeah, definitely something you should look at.
I do have a website. I'm not totally technology retarded. I do have a website. It's sheretreats.life, and you can contact me there for relocation and retirement consultations. I mean, I just chat with people. It's not, big deal. So that's a way. Belize Balanced Lifestyle on Facebook is also a way. You might just see me strolling down the sidewalk in Placencia. It's a small village. We have villages and towns here also, so it's not hard to find me. I kind of take that for granted that I've switched, right? So in the States, you cannot find me. You cannot find me in the States, right? The big world of technology, all of the people. But when you come here, you can probably ask a couple people, maybe by your third person.
I love that.
You could probably figure out how to find me. It's not hard. It's a small community. So that's my preferred lifestyle now, right? And so that's part of my wellness, part of me striving for more of a digital detox. I also went to India in December for some learning and teaching, and I had a chance to sit with Avijah, which is an Indian doctor, and I have eye challenges, and he told me straight up, put the cell phone down, get off the computer completely. That's like when he looked in my eyes, like completely. So I know that's something I need to do eventually for myself. So I slowly but surely, I don't do email, so forgive me if people email me. I'm gonna go check it maybe about once a week. So it takes a while, but I do have one. SheRetreats.life is the website. You can find me there, and I'm happy to talk to people about their journey, particularly how can they get to Belize, because Belize is not for the faint of heart. I'm gonna just be real with people. You can make it what you want, but because it's so different than the U.S., you really need to know what you're getting into, right? That's just it. Yeah.
That's real. I mean, what I love about, what you said, like I check my email once a week. OMG. If I did that, my email would explode. Like I don't even know how that's possible.
I stay connected to Facebook Messenger because that's a little lighter and more fun, and WhatsApp. But those are like really too. WhatsApp, you can send documents, you can do just about everything there. So I'm just like, I don't want to be sitting here using so much brain power, because for me that was my area that ended up being the weakness, just brain, and all of that. So now I'm trying to use a little less of it. That's so terrible.
I was going to say, Halona, are you the same, or is it once a week for you, or is it more?
Well, I mean, I have to be on the computer every day, but I do notice I didn't have eyeglasses until I went to Cambodia. So yeah, I realize how much the computer is killing my eyesight, just because I have to be on the computer all the time to be able to run my business. And that's the part of the reason why I want to be able to have 3 months of nothing but other creative activities that don't involve the computer. Because if I don't take care of it, I'm going to be, 60, 70 years old and can't see nothing. Like, this is ridiculous. Right? Yeah. So, I can't say that it's my career that's killing me. I have to make decisions, and to be able to rearrange my life so that I can put myself as a priority. My eyesight is important.
And to me, like, that's the epitome of, you're being well, right, and being healthy. It's not so much, you don't have any problems, or right, like you're eating all the right foods, and you're mentally sound, spiritually, emotionally. That it's not so much that, but it's so much, like you said, like I can rearrange my life and my schedule to fit my needs. And that's really what like self-care is about. I talk about soulful self-care versus superficial self-care, right? Because what we've been talking about is like the surface stuff. I'm gonna drink some green smoothies and that's gonna solve all my problems. But when you recognize, you know what, I'm on the computer too much, I can just not be on the computer as much and still get things done. That right there is self-care.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think, I hope what, our viewers are recognizing is that there are different ways to, define health. There's different ways to define self-care outside of the traditional or sort of the stereotypical ways that we would necessarily think about. And you can look at your own lives and say like, wow, what are some of the shifts that I really need to change? Like, what are my natural cycles? Like, what are some of the things that I can do? Yes, you might still be living wherever you are, and not saying that you have to move to do that, but what are some of the things that you can take away from this and the changes that you can make right now wherever you are?
Yeah. I'm going to say to that This doesn't sound like it has to do with wellness, but it does. And that is really setting some values-based goals for yourself. And so a lot of times when we set out on our path in life, it's all the things in front of us that somebody else said we want to be or want to do. And then we start. And we never look back to why we're doing these things. So I want to be a fireman. I want to be a lawyer. I want to work on Capitol Hill. I want to do all of these things, right? But why? What are our values in life? You know, do we value quality time? Do we value being on the go? Do we value learning? Do we value religion and space and time, right? And then setting some goals based on those values, not based on what everyone else is telling you to do. And if you can stay on track with that, then you're less likely to become sick in the first place. And I'm just going to say that that means that you're operating in a soulful way, in a heartfelt way in your day to day, right? And that's really where I'm at now here in Belize. I had to completely remove myself because I had already spent 40 years on that path. So I had to just, back it up and peel the layers of the onion. But I'm going to say, if you can start with that goals piece, and then work from there and figuring out that wellness journey, you'll have more stick-to-itiveness, right? It won't be the forces from everyone else won't be pushing on you so much. Yeah.
Love that. Yeah. That's real. I mean, it just goes back to, again, taking that time to get to know you, to learn you, to be more self-aware. Ultimately, really, really going back to that. I think Jessica asked some like really good questions. Like, for women who are watching this, right? And they're like, this all sounds great. I don't know that I can do this, but it sounds great. Like, what advice would you offer them? Because so many women are watching this because they're living vicariously through you, right? But ultimately, they got to live their own lives. So what advice would you give them?
For me, women have told me several times that they're living vicariously through me. And that, to be honest, that breaks my heart. Because I realize that I remember, feeling that way about myself and watching other people before I actually left the States. And I realized how much wasted energy that is. To really be able to sit down and think about what it is that you want, think about what your values are, as Barbara talked about. What are your personal priorities? What is it that you're here to be able to get out of your life? That's really a place to be able to start at. And I think people look at us and they sort of think, that we just hopped up one day and just bounced out of the United States, and not realizing that this has been a whole process. I don't think most people are just getting up and leaving their situation. You have to get to a point where you're just like, listen, I either need to do this now or it's never going to be able to happen. So my advice would be to start with what it is. What do you want? What is it about yourself that you are interested in changing, and why? Get just really clear on your what your personal goals are, and you just sort of start from a place from there, and maybe just start visiting places. If there's a country that you always wanted to go to, spend a week or two, a month if you can, going to the country that you always wanted to go to. Just sort of spend time in the place and just sort of see, how does this feel for me? Do I like being here? Is this someplace that I want to come back to? And if not, pick someplace else. Like, people think that they have to pick a country, particularly not so much when I was in Asia, but for Africa, for us as people of the African diaspora. Even if you've never been to Africa before, a lot of people are like, oh, I need to buy land before I get here. Oh, I need to build a house and I need to start a business. And I'm like, you haven't even gotten here. Like, right. Like, just get here. Like,
I don't think about doing that stuff at home. I'm definitely not thinking about doing it abroad.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm like, it's just you like you're doing too much. And I don't think people
Yeah.
realize that
Yeah.
the decisions that you make before you leave the States, the things that you believe that you want are going to change once you move
Mm.
yourself to someplace
Yes.
else because your consciousness changes. So you're not making decisions from the same level of consciousness before that you were when you were in the States. So just get somewhere and sit down for 6 months. Just feel the place, feel the neighborhood, learn the language, have some fun, eat some good food, and like you don't have to take it that seriously.
Mm.
Like we want to be able to feel responsible, get somewhere and feel responsible and set up life and make this big statement about moving back to Africa. And then it doesn't need to be that deep, at least not yet. Just get here and calm down.
Just get here.
Calm down.
Listen, I done heard sit down. I don't know how many times during
In a
just
folding
sit
chair.
down.
Yeah, but I think that's the Americanized, like,
Yes. Go, 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 go. Gotta do this, gotta do that, gotta do that. Yeah.
right. So it's kind of hard
Absolutely.
for you to take yourself out of that and then move into a space of, okay, now I need to change my mindset from I don't need to attain these awesome, amazing, whatever goals that I've set out for myself or that other people have set out for me. It's okay for me to just be. It's hard to move into that space. So I'd love to hear from you, Helena. Just tell us a little bit more, right? Because I know we talked about it in the episode, but that was a while ago. Have you had any other, maybe even awakenings or thoughts like, oh, this is why I actually took the step. I finally said, I'm going to do this. Or, was there something that happened that got you to a place where you're like, okay, this has to happen now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you were in America. You were here, you were doing what we all do, right? Like just going about it. And then
Mm-hmm.
finally you said, I'm done, enough. So what was that shift?
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
You mean the shift from when I was in America that made me actually get here, or what I have learned since I've been away?
I think a little bit of both, right? Because I feel like there's still, as we kind of have these conversations as we do every time we kind of speak to y'all that have left and we're still here, right? That there's this mindset almost like you said before that we have to attain certain things, we have to do all these things. So there's something that happens, that just knocks you, whatever it happens, to where you're going, okay, I can't, like you said, live vicariously through someone else. I need to do this for me, for myself. So
So when you can actually release all the stuff and
yeah.
just say, I'm just gonna do it and I'm just gonna be here. Yeah,
Well, I
that's
don't think I released all the stuff. I think I think we talked about before, when the pain is bad enough, you just make a decision. And for myself, I was so sick. I was so sick and tired of being in the body that I was living in that I actually felt like I would die before I actually lived my dreams of actually living overseas, because my mom had died at 49 and I was 40 at the time when I left. My mom died of breast cancer. And so I was afraid that I was heading towards that direction. And I actually remember sitting with her while she was in hospice and her begging God that I just need another 6 months to live. I didn't want to be that. I didn't want that to be my story. So I needed to be able to stop being scared and like pick a place and go. And, I was like, if I die in the process, at least I left. I tried.
mm,
I continue to stay on this path because rather than just feeling like I need to be able to feel good in my body, now I found such a great sense of self-worth that I didn't know was available to me. Like when you grow up, you sort of, and you understand, um, you sort of check off the boxes of what it is that it feels like to achieve certain things. I got all the degrees, I got married and, that fell to hell. And you want to be able to have a family, but you realize that having a family with a person that you're not compatible with doesn't make sense. And so you feel like, okay, I'm 40. Well, am I ever going to meet anybody? You don't know. And now I realize that all of that doesn't even matter. All of that is just nonsensical, and it shouldn't be put on a timeline, because my life is worthy of just living out. and being able to see how far I can learn and grow and learn new things. There's so much more to life than checking off a bunch of boxes. Like I don't even know. I was trying to find words for what it is to have self-worth, to be able to put all of your energy into creating the person that you want to be, because who else is going to do that for you? That's why I chose the wrong husband, because I was looking for somebody else to give me something, and they can't give that to you. I have to do that for myself.
All right. Well, I'm handing the mic on over to Barbara.
I felt all of that. I felt all of that.
I felt it all too. I maybe need to just get at a moment.
I just needed to sit with it. I was like, whoo.
Can we talk about choosing the wrong man? Do we want to know?
Lord, gonna have me up here in tears. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. I have nothing to add.
I want to. Okay, so then I want to go a little bit deeper into choosing the wrong people, right? Okay. And I think that has a lot to do with, like we talked about before, right? That outside coming in, and then we're looking for. And I realized that a lot of the folks that I entertained earlier on was definitely from movies, from whatever else, right? I was supposed to be with a dark-skinned, chocolate Morris chestnut looking, and my husband is not that. So yeah, do you want to talk a little bit more about that, Halona, and go into kind of some of the things that maybe you were thinking when you went into the relationship, and then how you kind of switched that, and now you're looking, for a different personality or different.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I got married when I was 25, and we were married. We were together for 10 years. I don't know. I didn't know what I was looking for. I was like, I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Togo in West Africa, and I met somebody, and we got along. We sort of dated for 2 years, and as I was leaving, I was like, why not just get married? I'm 25. This is what people do at 25. I didn't really think about it. Didn't think about what we were going to do together once we got married. Like, there was no purpose to our being together. So, hello, this is the reason why it didn't work out. And it took me a good 15 years to figure that out. Like, I didn't know. Like, I really just thought there was something wrong with me. Why is this person rejecting me? Why doesn't this person want to come home? And it really while yes, he did all of those things, but I wasn't set up in the way that I was supposed to be. I didn't love myself in the way I wasn't raised to know that I had any value by myself. You pick differently when you know who you are and that what it is that you so-called bring to the table.
Absolutely.
So it's just different. And even after I got out of that 10-year marriage, I got into another relationship with somebody for another 5 years. It was worse than the marriage, but I stayed with him for 5 years just because I felt like, well, I'm just getting old, and this is where I'm supposed to stay. And from all of the other marriages that I had seen in my family, and the people around me, people just sort of stuck out things with people that they probably should have just let go. And if they had just taken a year or two of self-reflection, they would make a different decision. So that when I left overseas, I didn't even want to be bothered with a date. I didn't. People would ask me, and I would talk to my grandfather on the phone, and he would be like, "Halona, so what are you doing?" And he's like, have you met somebody yet?" And I'm like, "I'm doing all of this self work and all of this other stuff, and all y'all got time to ask me."
Then you find a man.
Like, I just don't even get it. Like, and I'm, feeling good about myself, and then, you have all these failed relationships, and it's a mess. Yeah. But for five years, I've been single. Now I'm like, okay, now I'm at a place where I can go. And so I'm going to a bigger place where I have access to people who have similar experiences as I do. and now I can go out on a date. I
Yeah.
don't know if I'm going to get married anytime soon, but that's not really the point at this moment in time.
Yeah.
The point is for me to be able to be whole, complete, and healthy. That's it.
Yeah.
Then when I meet the proper person, then we can both be whole, complete, and healthy together. And we can build something that actually grows and actually contributes to the planet instead of just a bunch of dysfunction, which is what I was doing before.
Ooh, which is what a lot of people are doing. How about that? The vast majority of my clients, I can say that is exactly what is happening. And I can personally relate to that. Same thing. You know, I met my ex-husband, I was 24. And we dated for 2 years and I got married at 26. Now, here's the difference. I did have self-worth, right? I thought I knew who I was. Let me say that. I thought I knew what I wanted. And I think the difference is that I did have specific reasons why I married him and why I thought we would be good together. The problem was I didn't know the woman that I was becoming.
Mm-hmm.
And so I couldn't account for that. I could only account for who I was at that time. And so we were married 14 years. And what was so challenging about it is that he wasn't a bad person, right? Like he didn't cheat on me. He didn't mistreat me, you know, all of that stuff. But I knew, like, oh my God, my soul knew, like, he was just not the man for me. And I was never going to be the woman that I needed to be, that I wanted to be with him. He did not have the energy. He did not have the capacity to be the partner that I needed.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an extremely hard decision because everybody tells you, like, you just stick it out. You know, you got married. You're supposed to be married forever.
Right.
But I was like, there are literally parts of me that are dying in this marriage.
Mm-hmm.
I will never be my whole complete person in this marriage. I've literally had to die in order to exist in this space. And I'm no longer choosing to do that.
Right.
And you know, and I remember my father, like, you gonna leave this man? Like, what are you gonna do? I was like, I'm gonna be all right. Like, I know who I am. I'm clear. Like, now I'm clearer. Like, I know what I need now. And I understand this version of myself and I understand where I'm going. So I know what I need for that next. And this ain't it. And it was challenging dating, even though I loved it. Like, I'm different than a lot of people. I actually have fun dating. I had a ball. Dating for me is fun. But it was challenging in terms of meeting that person that I knew that I could really grow with and that I could build a life with. And I tell my clients all the time, like, you need to have a mission statement for your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, you had no purpose. It's like, so why are y'all together? Like, just because y'all like each other? Because he cute? Because he got money? Because he can take care? Like, what is the point? What are we doing? You know, and a lot of people don't think about that. There's no purpose for the relationship. So you're absolutely right. Like, it can only go but so far when you don't know why you're really here.
Mm-hmm.
And so that took some time getting to that space. And so, you know, the man that I'm with today, that, you know, like, we spiritually bonded. At some point, we're going to make it legal. But we together. So it don't even, you know, even stuff like that. Like, I was so like, you know, you got to be married. Of course, I want to be married again legally, but I don't even care. Like, we just together. So all those things just start to shift, like it's like what you find to be important. And it's been a beautiful journey because he's allowed me to grow even more. He's challenged me in ways that other people couldn't challenge me. And so that I can really be that person that I know that I am. And I've challenged him in ways. So we really have helped each other to grow. And we really have been a partner for each other. And that's really, for me, what it's about. We're able to support each other in the ways that we need support in order to be the beings that we truly are. And most people will never find that because, like you said, they don't know who they are. They don't know where they're going. They don't know what they need or what they want, or they're going to stay stuck in environments that are comfortable, even though it doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Woo! Yeah.
Relationships are so important. I figured that out. And if you don't have a good relationship with yourself and know who you are, everything else just goes to hell. This is the reason why life for a lot of people doesn't work. It feels so hard to live
They don't like
because you're
themselves.
trying to, yeah, you're connecting to people who are just dragging you down further from where you are.
Yep. Whew. Barbara, you still got nothing to add? She like, I'm good. I got it.
I don't know. You know, I heard Lana's story, and I'm just kind of shaking my head because I relate to it. I got married at 21, right? I got married right out of college. I graduated in May, and I was married by October. And you know, my ex-husband and I were power couples. You know, we got our degrees, we got our jobs. I mean, we just went forward. We built houses, whatever. You know, and didn't pay very much attention to our relationship. In fact, you know, we even had kids, whatever. You're looking at the person, you're like, you don't know who this person is. We were young, you know, we had a very academic approach to marriage, right? Versus a relational or relationship based approach to it. It was a merger, not a marriage, right? And so, at the end, you say your corporate values are not my corporate values, and you have to divest. And that's really kind of what we did at the end of the day. And so, you know, I was married for 10 years. I spent maybe the next 15, 17 years dating or whatever. And then I just kind of got to the point where I said, I'm going to stop looking at people as humans, but as energy. And they are manifestation of their energy, their thoughts, their actions, their spaces around them. And I am going to interact with them accordingly, right? And I can shift energy. I can shift my energy and energy around me. And then I'm also going to define what love is for me and what it feels like and stick to it. And how do I love other people? And knowing those things has really helped me in relationships, intimate relationships, and in casual relationships and platonic relationships as well. You know, coming to believe relationships don't form the same way. So you find yourself many years later and years older in your older life, sometimes saying, how do I make friends? Right. You know, you have to kind of look back and say, how did I get the friends that I have now? And you got them in your day-to-day comings and goings, but you got them because you had similar energy with somebody. You shared a space with them and you felt connected, whether it was a conversation or what you did or whatever. That was your energy being connected. And if you can just stay on that path when you come into contact with people, we can make better choices. We don't get stuck with the tall, dark, handsome person that, you know, looks like Michael Jordan. You know what I'm saying? We find the person that we're more energetically aligned to, and then we have more success. Yeah. That's all.
That's it. Sorry, Morris Chestnut.
I can just Netflix him whenever I want.
But that goes back to the surface, right? Like those surface things that we're taught, even about relationships. And so, you know, you look good, I look good, we like each other, let's get married. You know, they say you're the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. I mean, that's what we do. That's what we learn. And you get married and you stay married
together. We could be on the cover magazine. We, you know,
the baby's gonna be cute. Just forget it.
All the things that are important. Like all the things, right?
Yeah, mostly all the wrong things, right? Because like, is this person even a good person? Do I even vibe with them, right? All of those other things that are really truly important. Are they going to be supportive? You know, are they going to cook? Because I don't cook. You know, those things. You know, how we balance each other out and support each other.
And you know, and that was one of the things that I learned that was so incredibly important, is that different people bring out different parts of your part of your personality and who you are. And you can be around, you know, negative energy. It might not even be negative, but it's negative for you.
Yeah.
And so it's not going to bring out the best parts of you. You know, we met those people, like all of you, like, we just don't work. Like, we just don't get along. I mean, there ain't nothing wrong with you. I just don't like you. Like, our energies just don't match. And that was one of the things that I really recognized about relationships. It really is about finding that matched energy. And it has nothing to do with how you present and what you look like on the outside. Like, I've always dated tall men. Always. You know, I'm 5'2", but it don't matter. I've always dated tall men. You know, and my man, he is 5'8". I always feel like, you're the shortest person I've ever dealt with. Like, but he knows me inside and out. Like, he is truly the best person for me and does not look anything like what I would normally choose.
It's a match.
It's a match. Absolutely. And we always talk about that. Like, our relationship is purpose. You know, and I, you know, he always says that. And I'm like, I couldn't have said it better myself. And I didn't even recognize it at first because I was too busy looking at him like, no, I don't think so. I'm going to go out with you, but I don't think so.
Same here.
Like, I was not convinced. Okay.
You just don't have that thug passion I was looking for.
No, I was like, no. I mean, we could be friends. And he told me off the jump, he's like, I do not want to be your friend. I was like, oh. He was very clear about his intention for us. And I was like, oh, this is different. Okay. He's serious.
Yeah.
He was very clear. He was very intentional. And he was very consistent. So I was like, well, dang. Okay, God. All right.
There you go.
Okay.
Anything less than that, I don't want it.
I mean, that's it. That's it. And it's, you know, and it's just, how do you let go of the surface, right? Of the things that we've been taught and really go to that deeper level, go to the soulfulness, right? Of what's really real and what's really true and what's really valuable. Like, how do you get to that level?
I think it's kind of what we've all been saying, though, right? It's all retrospection, knowing yourself. And how do you get to know yourself? Talk about that journey.
You got to move a lot slower. So I had a male friend tell me one time, "Why are you moving too fast? You know, you ever seen a woman just pop, going there, whatever?" And I said, I got stuff to do. I'm moving or whatever. He said, well, if you don't slow down, these men will never be able to see you. You're just going to be gone, right? Right? And I mean, he was being, you know, kind of humorous, right? You know, kind of sexy, walk slow kind of thing. But, you know, metaphorically, if you move slower, you can see one another, right? You have a chance to hear the conversation, see how a person reacts, look at them respond to their day-to-day lives, right? Because you're moving slower. That person needs to move slower so you can breathe and experience one another in your truth, not experiencing one another in your day-to-day comings and goings and the pressures of life, right? That's really truly how we can make better choices and end up with better people. But it's nearly impossible in your day-to-day. You work wondering, you know, I got to get in this car, I got to get down the road, I got to get to work. Oh, I have a meeting, you know, or I have 20 minutes for lunch versus an hour and a half where I can sit and let my food digest and talk to the person sitting in Starbucks next to me versus having my earphones on and you know, because you got to get back to the office. So you're sucking down a coffee. You didn't know that there was anybody around you, you know, all of that. So no, you can't pick a good relationship. You can only be surface because it's so swift. You're going to have to take that relationship that shows up in your lap because like what you said, Halona, you don't want to be that old and gray by yourself. So that's, you know, an unfortunate set of circumstances.
I love that. I don't know if I certainly never thought about that, but it makes so much sense. You move slower, you can see more.
You can taste better. You know,
I think
it's like savor your food, savor your life experiences. You know, don't just chew them and swallow. And then you get indigestion. You get that bad relationship. That man beat you. When had you chewed on it a little bit, he'd have been more calm in your presence. Don't get me started. I don't know.
Yeah, you know, I think of that in terms of intuition, though, because so many of us really have it. We just don't tap into it.
You can't tap
when
into
you move slower, you can actually really hear it and feel it and don't feel the need to make that rash decision. Because a lot of times that's what happens. You'll feel it, it's there, but you don't give yourself enough time to really kind of get a sense of what it is. You'll just move past it and on to the next. And then it'll be, years down the line, like, you know what? I knew better. I should have done this. Like, even with my marriage, I knew there was something, right before we got married. My intuition was like, Ava Laura, this ain't it. And I moved past it because I was like, well, we done send out the invitations. We got the venue. We put down the deposits, right? People are coming. Like, whatever it is, it'll work itself out. It'll be fine. And that feeling never left the whole 14 years we were together. It never left. It only got stronger.
Wow. There you go.
So, yeah. Ooh, this has been a lot. This has been so much to chew on.
I know. Uncomfortability.
Halona, what did you say? Nurturing versus filling, but nourishing. This has been nourishing.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts? Anything that that you want to leave our viewers with that will really help them, like, in whatever their journey is, right? Because it might not be leaving. They may stay here, and that's fine. But any final thoughts for them as it relates to their wellness and their well-being and their wholeness?
Mm-hmm. I would say to remember that you only get to do this particular life one time. Mm-hmm. And whatever it is that you want to do, maybe it's not packing up and going to Asia and Africa. Maybe you want to go take pictures of wild horses in Minnesota. I don't know. Mm-hmm. All of those dreams are valid. Anything that comes up into your mind and you keep dreaming about it and you wish that you had it done, and now is the time to go out and do those things. I've in my since I've been away, there have been a number of women friends who said that they were coming to visit me or to be able to start their lives or to be able to do a thing that they wanted to do, and their lives were unexpectedly cut short. And that breaks my heart every time I think about it, because they would always say, they look at me and they say, Halona, you're so free. I want to be able to be like that. And I remember what it was like to be able to think that. And they didn't get to their freedom. Like my mom, they didn't get to their freedom. She was, I still remember her in her bed saying, God, I just need 6 more months. That doesn't need to be you and your story. The earlier you get to the life that you want, I think the greater chance you have of living a longer life. Of course, we all can't control how long we are here, but at least we want to make the most of the time that we're here. So take some time to be selfish and think about what that thing or several things that you want to be able to do with your life, and figure out the steps you need to take to move forward with it.
Or get the help that you need to do that. Because sometimes you don't know, and you're not going to know, and that's okay. But at least the awareness will help you to say, this is what I need. Who can I get help from that can help me there? Yeah, that's real. Barbara.
I would just add to that, to thine own self be true. What are the things that you want for yourself? Who are you? And stick to that, and make all of your, follow-up choices after that based upon yourself. Really, that's the best thing I would say. It's a following your heart kind of thing. And then the second piece of advice I would say is get rid of the naysayers. Our family tends to be the biggest devil advocate in our life. When we tell people we want to do stuff, they naturally say, oh, but this, oh, but why? Oh, no, you can't do whatever. And that's not necessarily from a position of naysaying. It is from a position of love usually, and that person is trying to protect you. They're trying to make you think of that. Secondly, they sometimes are selfish, right? And they want you for themselves. But you got to be able to put those people over there, and right here, focus on you and putting those those decisions first. And that's what I mean by to thine own self be true, So all the people whose jobs they feel it is to play devil's advocate or to keep you going in one direction, that's not what this is about. This is about your own wellness and your own path and making your own choices so that you can feel good about it, right? No regrets in life. Maybe some choices you do differently, but you don't want to ever look back and say, I wish I could have, would have, should have, so that.
Love it. Thank you for that. Yeah. Jessica, any final thoughts?
No, I just want to thank you two ladies for coming on and sharing and hanging out with us. So many, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to go back and clip this up, and so many pieces. Like, I'm like, okay, y'all can stop now because that's too much editing. But all these different like little jewels that you guys, just dropped in here, and these little gems that you dropped throughout this whole episode of different little spaces and paces. I just thank you both so
you're
much.
welcome. Thank you for having me. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. And how can our viewers find you? I mean, Barbara, you said it, but say it again, please, so they don't stop asking.
Yes, definitely.
Or if you could drop it in the chat, that would be amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I will definitely do both. SheRetreats.life is the best way to find me, or Belize Balanced Lifestyle with a D on Facebook. Facebook is the standard here for communications between businesses. So someone, if not me, someone in my folks or whatever is going to respond. Belize Balanced Lifestyle is the best way. Yeah.
Thank you. And Halona, what about you?
You can find me on IG at Halona Black, and then I recently started a Substack where I talk about creating a writing life and finding your creativity. So you can find that at halona.substack.com.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for spending the morning, afternoon with us. Like I said, this has truly been a nourishing conversation. I hope that all of our viewers, got what they needed, whatever that was, that they got what they needed, and that they'll be able to take this information and start to implement it in some way. I don't expect that you're going to be able to take all of it because it was a lot. But even if you could just take one thing that you heard here today and implement it into your life and use it for your well-being, that's a win. That's a win. Even if it's a big aha moment, that's a win. So thank you, ladies, for being here. Thank you all for watching. And we will see you whenever we come back. We don't even say when because that is self-care. We don't know when, but we'll be back. So just stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. So whenever we come live or whenever we drop some new videos, you'll certainly be able to tune in. And you certainly can connect with Jessica and I. You can connect with us on Facebook, Black Women Leave America as well. And we'll see you next time.